Central bankers aren't renowned for blunt statements, but the current economic climate is changing that.
While higher interest rates, slower growth, and softer labor market conditions will bring down inflation, they will also bring some pain to households and businesses.
And the US Federal Reserve is inflicting pain by raising its benchmark interest rate that was slashed to near zero during the pandemic to more than 3%.
Probably in the housing market have to go through a correction.
In other words, forcing inflated property prices down as part of a wider economic slowdown by making mortgages too expensive for many. At 6.5% interest, the current average 30-year mortgage in the US has nearly doubled this year. That's hundreds of dollars extra in monthly repayments, and the National Association of Realtors is seeing the impact everywhere.
We see rents are rising as well, so for first-time home buyers, for example, it's much more difficult for them to purchase a home. They cannot save for down payment.
For some, these rapidly rising interest rates look familiar.
I think we all face the job of getting the economy on a sustainable, non-inflationary path.
With inflation hitting nearly 15% in 1980, cigar-loving former Fed Chair Paul Volcker deliberately sent the economy into recession by raising that federal funds rate up to a nearly staggering 20%. The average mortgage rate soared to 18.6% in October 1981, while unemployment rose to nearly 11% in the ensuing recession. It was a punishing remedy, but it worked. By late 1982, inflation had dropped more than half, helping the economy recover under President Ronald Reagan. Current Fed Chair Jerome Powell initially hoped to do the opposite to Volcker, gently reducing inflation by gently raising rates so that businesses and consumers would barely notice.
But so far, those aggressive interest rate hikes haven't put much of a dent in inflation, partly because it's so deeply embedded throughout the economy and not just in food and fuel prices. And that's leaving some wondering if Powell may have to push those rates towards Volcker territory in order to pull that inflation out of the wider economy.
But could the housing market, which makes up about a fifth of the US economy, cope with a Volcker-style remedy?
The typical family cannot afford to buy the typical home if mortgage rates are higher than 5.7%. So currently they are higher than that, and what we see, the typical family cannot afford to buy the typical home.
The Fed has signalled more aggressive rate hikes that are likely to top more than 4% by the end of this year, with its ultimate aim of bringing inflation back to a target rate of around 2%. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.